Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'll be showing you how to derive the distance formula. Alright, so to start with, suppose we have 2 points. Point 1 whose coordinate is x sub 1, y sub 1, and P2 or point 2 whose coordinate is x sub 2, y sub 2. Alright, so let's try to plot the points. Let's start with P sub 1. So P sub 1 is x sub 1 and y sub 1. So if this is our x sub 1, okay, and this is our y sub 1, all right, if we're going to, okay, so this is the point, and that will be our p sub 1, x sub 1, y sub 1. All right, now let's have another point. Point 2 is x sub 2, y sub 2. So if this is our x sub 2, okay, and this is our y sub 2, then we have this is our x sub 2, and we have our y sub 2, and this is the intersection, and this is the point, and that is our P2, x sub 2 and y sub 2. And so if we're going to connect these 2 points, that will give us a line. Now, the next question is, what is the distance between point 1 to point 2? All right, so let's label that one as D. The distance between point 1 and point 2 is D. All right. Now, take note that the distance, this distance, okay, between x sub 1 and the y-axis is actually x sub 1. Okay, and if we're going to extend this line, okay, the distance between this line from y-axis to this line, okay, let's connect that one, okay, that distance is actually also the x sub 2. And so if we're going to get the distance between x sub 1 and x sub 2, all right, this distance x sub 1 and x sub 2, that is simply x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, x sub 2 and x sub 1. And it also follows that this line is also x sub 2 minus x sub 1. All right, now next, what is this distance? This distance, okay, from x-axis to this point, okay, that is actually our y sub 1. All right, now what about this point? This point, okay, from here going here, okay, what is that distance? Okay, this distance, what is this? Okay, that is actually our y sub 2. Okay, now if we're going to get the distance, okay, between this distance, that is actually y sub 2 minus y sub 1. All right, and so if we're going to transfer that triangle here, that will give us, this is the D, okay, and we have the triangle. So this is our y sub 2 minus y sub 1, and this is our x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and this is our D. And since we have a right triangle, okay, right triangle, then to solve for D, we simply use the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, so we have c squared equals a squared plus b squared. All right, so our c squared here, or our hypotenuse, is the D squared, and our a is this one. This is our a, so that will give us x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared, right? Plus our b is this one, so that will give us y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. All right, so to solve for d, we simply have to extract the roots. We simply have to take the square root of d squared rather. So we take the square root of d squared, and also take the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared, okay, plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. And the square root of d squared is d, and so we are left of this one, x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared, okay, plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. And this is the distance formula. Now let's have some example. Let's have example number 1. Find the distance between point 1, whose coordinate is 8 and 1, and point 2, whose coordinate is 0 and negative 5. So the first thing that you need to do is to plot the points. So let's plot the points. Let's start with p sub 1, 8 and 1. So here's our 8 and 1. So it's here. Okay, so this is our point 1, 8 and 1. And we have point 2, 0 and negative 5. So 0 and negative 5. So 0 and negative 5 is here. Alright, so that's our point 2. 0 and negative 5. Alright. Now, if we're going to connect these points, okay, that will give us a line. Okay. And so what is the distance between point 1 and point 2? Alright, so applying the distance formula, d equals the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared. Alright, now our x sub 1 here is, our x sub 1 is 8, and our y sub 1 is 1. Our x sub 2 is 0, and our y sub 2 is negative 5. So substituting these values to our formula, and then we have, right, our x sub 2 is 0 minus 8 squared plus our y sub 2 is negative 5 minus 1 squared. Alright, and so simplifying, 0 minus 8 is negative 8. That's negative 8 squared is 64. And we have negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 squared, that is 36. Right? And 64 plus 36, that will give us 100. And square root of 100 is 10. So the distance between point 1 and point 2 is 10 units. Alright, so this is our answer. Let's have example number 2. Find the distance between P3 or point 3, whose coordinate is at 1 and 5, and point 4, whose coordinate is at negative 5 and 3. Now, the first thing that you need to do here is again to plot the points. So let's start with P sub 3, 1 and 5. So 1 is here and 5 is here. So this is the point 3, 1 and 5. And we have point 4, negative 5 and 3. So negative 5 is here and 3 is here. Okay, point 5 is negative 5, and 3. And so if we're going to connect these points, that will give us a line. Okay? And so what is the distance of the line connecting, okay, P3 and P4? All right. So we can solve that. We can solve for the distance by using the distance formula. So we have our x sub 3, which is equal to 1, and our y sub 3 is equal to 5. Our x sub 4 is negative 5, and our y sub 4 is 3. And so substituting to the formula, okay, we will have, okay, instead of x sub 1 and x sub 2, we're going to use the x sub 3 and x sub 4. So we can have x sub 4 minus x sub 3 squared plus y sub 4 minus y sub 3 squared. All right. And so we have the distance. The distance is, so we have x sub 4, which is negative 5, and our x sub 3 is 1 squared plus our y sub 4 is 3 minus the y sub 3, which is 5, and then squared. Okay, so simplifying, negative 5 minus 1, that will give us negative 6. Okay, negative 6 squared plus negative 2 squared. Alright, so this will give us negative 6 squared is 36. Okay, plus negative 2 squared is 4. Alright, and so this will give us the square root of 40. But 40 can be simplified. Okay, we can have actually 40. There is a factor of 40 that is a perfect square, and that is 4. So we can have actually here 4 times 10. And square root of 4 is 2. So that will give us 2 square root of 10 units. Okay, so this is the distance.